Greetings, brave souls. Do you dare to discover the dark unknown? I am your haunted host, Phantom Spectres, and you stumbled upon the Phantom Files, where shadows speak and legends awaken. Here I unravel the darkest secrets and mysteries of the macabre, taking a page from my ancient library, covering topics that will haunt your dreams and mysteries that will keep you up at night. Join me in the shadows and let's embrace and dive into the darkness together with the Phantom Files. In the depths of the late 19th century, the story of H. Holmes took on a life of its own, woven into the fabric of Chicago's dark underbelly. Rumors of his horrific deeds spread like wildfire, igniting the imaginations of the curious and the fearful alike. The notion of a single man orchestrating such malevolence left many questioning the very nature of humanity. How could someone so outwardly charming conceal a heart so cold? Notoriously known as one of America's first serial killers, who terrorized Chicago starting in the 1880s. Born Herman Webster Mudgett in 1861 in Gilmanton, New Hampshire, his early life was marked by a complex mix of privilege and turmoil. He was the third of 5 children in a well-off family, yet his household was not without its troubles. His father, a local farmer, was known for his strict demeanor, and tales of physical abuse permeated the family dynamic. Young Herman was often isolated, finding solace in books and the world of imagination. However, this isolation bred a sense of superiority and a detachment from the emotions of those around him. As he grew, Herman displayed a keen intelligence and charisma that masked the darker impulses brewing beneath the surface. He excelled academically, but his charm often veiled a cunning mind that would later manifest in manipulative behaviors. The traumas of his childhood left scars that would shape his psyche. Instead of fostering empathy, they ignited a desire for control and power over others. By the age of 16, he graduated from high school and went on to study medicine at the University of Michigan. Here, he adopted the alias H. Holmes, shedding his past as he immersed himself in a world of ambition and deceit. Medical school fueled his obsession with life and death, providing him with the tools to inflict harm while maintaining an air of respectability. His early business dealings after graduation, initially in pharmaceuticals, were marked by deceit, as he would acquire insurance on properties before setting them ablaze, pocketing the profits. This marked the beginning of a pattern that would culminate in the notorious acts that would earn him infamy. Each step further entrenched him in a life of crime, as he twisted the lessons of his upbringing into a facade of respectability that concealed his true nature. After establishing himself in Chicago, H. Holmes wasted no time diving into a life of deception and crime. Initially, he engaged in small-time fraud, exploiting unsuspecting individuals through various schemes. He had a knack for manipulating people, using his charm to gain their trust before swindling them. Holmes's early criminal activities included stealing from his employers and defrauding local businesses. He would sell counterfeit goods, often leaving a trail of angered victims behind him. His ambition was insatiable, and the thrill of deceit only fueled his desire for more. As he settled into the city, his crimes escalated. He soon began to prey on vulnerable individuals, specifically those who came to Chicago seeking a better life. With each unsuspecting victim, Holmes's darker inclinations surfaced. He discovered the thrill of power that came from taking life away, leading him toward his first calculated murders. In the midst of this chaos, he embarked on a more ambitious venture, the construction of the murder castle. In 1887, he purchased a lot in a secluded area of Chicago. Here, he envisioned a hotel that would become the backdrop for his heinous acts. The design was nothing short of macabre, incorporating secret rooms, hidden passageways, and soundproof walls. Holmes hired a team of workers, but he was often seen overseeing the construction alone. Rumors circulated among the laborers about the peculiarities of the building. Some whispered about strange noises at night, while others spoke of a man who seemed too preoccupied with the details of his creation. As the hotel neared completion, Holmes's plans took a sinister turn. He crafted the space to be a perfect trap for those he intended to lure in. With a twisted sense of efficiency, he ensured that each element of the murder castle facilitated his dark desires. It became a place where the line between hospitality and horror blurred, designed to welcome victims rather than guests. With the murder castle complete, Holmes was ready to execute his most sinister designs. The facade of a respectable businessman cloaked the horrific reality within its walls. It was in this setting that he would unleash his most gruesome deeds, marking the beginning of a reign of terror that would haunt Chicago for years to come. As the murder castle opened its doors to the unsuspecting public, H.H. Holmes became a master of deception. The hotel, draped in an air of elegance, quickly attracted visitors drawn to the allure of the World's Fair. They arrived with dreams of adventure, unaware that they had stepped into a carefully crafted nightmare. Holmes welcomed each guest with a charming smile, presenting himself as the perfect host. Behind his charismatic facade, however, lurked a predatory instinct. He expertly gauged each visitor, identifying those who would be easiest to manipulate and ensnare. In the early days, his first confirmed victims began to vanish. One of the most notable was a young woman named Emmeline Sagrand. Lured by the promise of a new life, she arrived at the hotel, only to become another ghost in its walls. Holmes had promised her employment, but instead, she fell prey to his twisted ambitions. As the disappearances continued, Holmes's methods grew more refined. He devised elaborate schemes to kill without raising suspicion. He would lead his victims into hidden rooms, where their screams would go unheard, muffled by the soundproofing. Guests would come and go, but Holmes ensured that those who entered his dark realm would not leave. He often forged documents, claiming his victims had returned home, masking the truth of their fates. The more people vanished, the more brazen he became, his ego swelling with each successful act. Holmes's crimes did not go unnoticed for long. Rumors began to spread among the local community about the strange happenings within the murder castle. Friends and family of missing persons started to connect the dots, questioning the hotel's enigmatic proprietor. Yet, even as the scrutiny intensified, Holmes maintained his calm demeanor. He continued to manipulate those around him, employing charm to deflect suspicion. But with every calculated move, he edged closer to the unraveling of his carefully constructed life. As the summer of 1893 drew near, the walls of the murder castle echoed with secrets, and the ground beneath Holmes's empire began to shift. The stage was set for the impending investigations that would expose the horrors lurking within, leading to the eventual downfall of the man known as the Devil of 63rd Street. H.H. Holmes was notorious for his cunning methods in carrying out his crimes. He lured unsuspecting victims to his hotel, where he would use various tactics to end their lives. Some reports indicate he relied on poison, while others suggest he utilized his medical knowledge for more direct means. Once his victims were gone, he employed clever strategies to hide their bodies, often utilizing secret compartments and hidden passageways in his murder castle. In terms of disposing of remains, Holmes's actions were disturbingly calculated. It's said that he dismantled bodies and sold the skeletons to medical schools, making a profit while obscuring the evidence of his actions. He also reportedly burned bodies to ensure their complete disappearance. This combination of intelligence and malevolence turned his establishment into a chilling monument to his dark ambitions, leaving behind a legacy filled with mystery and horror. One particularly chilling rumor emerged about a secret basement below the hotel. Locals spoke of strange noises emanating from beneath the ground, metallic clangs, muffled screams, and the unsettling sound of chains rattling. Some claimed they had seen Holmes leading unsuspecting guests to a door that opened into darkness, only to disappear for hours. The basement became a focal point for their imaginations, a place where the true horrors of Holmes's madness might be unveiled. Curiosity turned into obsession for many. Some visitors dared to enter the hotel, hoping to catch a glimpse of the notorious owner. They recounted tales of the heavy atmosphere that enveloped them upon entering, a sensation that wrapped around them like a shroud. Each creak of the floorboards echoed ominously, heightening their anxiety. Those who explored further found themselves drawn to the rooms that had been locked for years, their doors bolted as if to keep the nightmares contained within. As the World's Fair approached, the city buzzed with excitement, yet a shadow loomed over the festivities. Holmes capitalized on the influx of visitors, using the fair as a cover for his sinister activities. The crowds were oblivious to the danger lurking just a few blocks away. Stories of missing persons began to trickle into the news, buried beneath the spectacle of the fair. Each disappearance added to the weight of suspicion hanging over Holmes, yet he continued to flaunt his affluence, weaving through society's elite with an ease that belied the horror of his actions. Amidst the growing concern, whispers of a curse associated with the hotel began to circulate. Some claimed that anyone who stayed within its walls would be met with misfortune, as if the spirits of the lost were seeking revenge. Accounts of guests experiencing vivid nightmares, waking in cold sweats, haunted by visions of the missing, fueled the legend. Others reported feelings of being watched, a constant prickling on the back of their necks that followed them through the halls. The mysterious aura surrounding Holmes only deepened when his former associates began to disappear as well. It was as if he was systematically eliminating anyone who could connect him to the crimes. Those who had once shared in his schemes now found themselves trapped in a game of survival. Fear gripped the hearts of even his most loyal followers, as they realized the true nature of the man they had trusted. They began to realize that in the labyrinth of his mind, betrayal was met with swift and brutal consequences. Holmes himself remained a figure of intrigue, often seen with a confident smile that masked the turmoil of his psyche. He projected an image of control, but those close to him sensed the cracks in his facade. Late at night, when the revelry subsided and the shadows lengthened, he would often retreat to the solitude of his thoughts, grappling with the consequences of his actions. Alone in his room, the weight of his deeds pressed heavily upon him, a constant reminder of the darkness he had unleashed. As the investigation into his activities escalated, Holmes began to feel the heat of the law closing in. He resorted to desperate measures, concocting elaborate stories to explain the disappearances, fabricating alibis that would stretch the limits of credibility. He was a master of manipulation, effortlessly weaving tales that captivated those around him, but the relentless pursuit of justice was not easily thwarted. The law enforcement officials assigned to his case began to piece together the puzzle, slowly unraveling the threads of his deceit. During this time, Holmes became increasingly paranoid. He began to see enemies everywhere, convinced that those he had wronged would come back to haunt him. The walls of the murder castle, once a sanctuary for his darkest impulses, began to close in on him. It was said that he would often talk to himself, muttering incoherent phrases that sent chills down the spines of those who overheard him. His laughter echoed eerily through the halls, a haunting sound that reverberated long after he had passed. H. Holmes was arrested in Boston on November 17, 1894, after being tracked there by the Pinkerton National Detective Agency. He was held on a warrant for horse theft in Texas as authorities suspected he was about to flee the country with his third wife. In July 1895, after the discovery of Alice and Nellie's bodies, police and reporters began investigating Holmes's hotel in Englewood. Despite various sensational claims, no concrete evidence was found to convict him in Chicago, only circumstantial evidence related to victims. As a result, Holmes was tried for the murder of Benjamin Pitezel in Philadelphia, where the case was clearer. In the eyes of the public, Holmes transformed from a charming entrepreneur to a monster. In October 1895, he was found guilty of Pitezel's murder and sentenced to death, with evidence suggesting he also murdered the 3 missing Pitezel children. After his conviction, Holmes confessed to 27 murders across several cities, receiving $7,500 from Hearst newspapers for his confession. He noted the drastic changes in his appearance during imprisonment. His story was sensationalized, capturing the imagination of a nation eager for thrills and chills. Newspaper articles flourished with tales of his misdeeds, painting him as a demonic figure lurking in the shadows of society. Each article added to his notoriety, feeding the growing legend that surrounded him. Soon, he was no longer just a man but a symbol of humanity's darkest inclinations. As he awaited trial, Holmes became increasingly consumed by his own narrative, relishing the attention and notoriety. He gave interviews, sharing exaggerated tales of his exploits, each story more fantastical than the last. His ego swelled with every headline that mentioned his name, each word becoming a twisted affirmation of his power. Yet beneath the bravado lay a fragile psyche, one that battled the reality of his impending doom. The trial itself was a spectacle, drawing crowds eager to witness the fall of the infamous killer. People flocked to the courtroom, many hoping to catch a glimpse of the man whose very name had become synonymous with terror. As he sat before the jury, Holmes played the role of the misunderstood genius, manipulating the narrative to suit his needs. Yet, for all his charisma, the truth of his actions lingered like a dark cloud over the proceedings, refusing to be silenced. He was found guilty of first-degree murder, sentenced to death. In the aftermath of the trial, as Holmes faced the finality of his fate, the stories of his victims began to resurface. Each name, once forgotten, was reclaimed by those who sought justice for the lost. Families who had searched tirelessly for their loved ones now stood in the courtroom, their grief palpable, their voices demanding recognition. The haunting reality of the lives taken filled the air, a stark contrast to the grandeur of the fair that had once masked the horror. As Holmes was sentenced to hang, the weight of his actions finally settled upon him. The legacy he left behind was one of darkness, a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity. His story became a cultural touchstone, inspiring countless tales of horror and cautionary legends that would echo through generations. He was not merely a man, he was a cautionary tale, an embodiment of the chaos that could arise when ambition twisted into malevolence. On May 7, 1896, Holmes was hanged at Moyamensing Prison. He remained calm and asked for his coffin to be encased in concrete to prevent grave robbing. His execution was prolonged, resulting in a slow strangulation. And yet, even as the noose tightened around his neck, whispers of his spirit lingered. Some claimed that his ghost roamed the grounds of the murder castle, seeking solace for the souls he had taken. Those brave enough to venture near the site reported seeing fleeting shadows and hearing whispers carried on the wind, as if the past refused to be buried. The legend of H. Holmes, the Devil of 63rd Street, continued to thrive in the shadows, an eternal reminder of the darkness that lurks just beneath the surface of humanity. Holmes was buried in an unmarked grave at Holy Cross Cemetery in Eden, Pennsylvania. The castle was damaged by fire in August 1895, after which it remained in use until its demolition in 1938. In 2017, his body was exhumed for testing and identified. It was found to be well preserved and reburied afterward. A fitting end for a man who sought notoriety. His final resting place serves as a stark reminder of his life. A man who craved power but ended up forgotten in a field, his notoriety now merely a whisper among the echoes of time. As we confront the complexities of his life, we are left with more questions than answers. What does it mean to be human? And how thin is the line that separates sanity from madness? In the tale of H. Holmes, we are forced to grapple with the chilling possibility that the capacity for evil resides within us all, lurking just beneath the surface, waiting for the right circumstances to emerge. The story of Holmes is not merely a historical account, it is a mirror reflecting the darkest aspects of our own existence, a cautionary tale reminding us that the devil may indeed dwell among us, cloaked in a familiar guise. With the passage of time, the tale of H. Holmes has only grown more intricate, intertwining with the very fabric of American folklore. Each year, the anniversary of his hanging draws curious onlookers and amateur sleuths to the site of his infamous hotel, now long destroyed but forever etched in the annals of history. Visitors often leave tokens, flowers, and even letters to the spirits believed to linger there, hoping to appease the restless souls of those who met their end within its walls. As tales of the Devil of 63rd Street proliferated, his hotel became a chilling attraction, a morbid curiosity that drew thrill seekers and investigators alike. Those brave enough to approach its ominous facade described an eerie silence that enveloped the area, as if the very walls whispered secrets of the vanished. Shadows flitted across the windows, creating the illusion of movement within, a stark contrast to the haunting stillness that reigned outside. It was as if the spirits of the lost lingered, caught in a liminal space between life and death, waiting for someone to uncover their stories. Among those captivated by the enigma of Holmes was a group of amateur detectives, men and women drawn to the mystery like moths to a flame. They gathered regularly, sharing rumors and piecing together fragments of information, hoping to solve the riddle of the missing. Their meetings were charged with tension, each story shared adding another layer to the growing legend of the murder castle. They speculated about hidden compartments and secret rooms, each theory more outrageous than the last, but all rooted in the unsettling truth that many had vanished without a trace. The allure of Holmes's narrative extends beyond the macabre. Psychologists and criminologists have sought to understand the motivations behind his heinous acts, often citing his complex upbringing and the cultural context of the time. The late 1800s were marked by rapid industrialization and social upheaval. This chaotic backdrop may have served as a breeding ground for individuals like Holmes, whose insatiable ambition could not be tempered by societal norms. Some argue that Holmes's actions were the result of a fractured psyche, shaped by a tumultuous childhood filled with strife. Others maintain that he was merely a product of his environment, a man who took advantage of the tumult of the age to pursue his own twisted dreams. Yet, despite the numerous theories, the truth remains elusive, as slippery as the shadows that once danced in his hotel. In the years following his execution, tales of Holmes began to evolve into legend. He became a figure of intrigue for writers and filmmakers, inspiring countless adaptations that sought to capture the essence of his chilling story. From novels to documentaries, the narrative of H.H. Holmes found a home in popular culture, each retelling adding layers to the mythos surrounding him. Modern audiences are drawn not just to the horror of his actions but to the complexity of his character. The dichotomy of the charming businessman and the remorseless killer continues to fascinate. Many have posited that Holmes embodied the quintessential American dream gone awry, a man who, in his relentless pursuit of success, surrendered his humanity to greed and power. The impact of Holmes's story extends beyond just stories. It serves as a cautionary tale in discussions about morality, mental health, and the potential for darkness within us all. The questions raised by his life and crimes challenge us to reflect on our own societal values and the fragility of our ethical compass. As the years roll on, the legacy of H.H. Holmes remains alive, a haunting echo of a man who walked among us, cloaked in charm but driven by insatiable malevolence. His story urges us to confront the shadows in our own lives, reminding us that the line between good and evil is often more blurred than we care to admit. In our fascination with his tale, we find not just fear, but a reflection of the complexities of human nature itself. The ongoing fascination with Holmes's legacy also invites exploration into the broader societal implications of serial murder. What drives an individual to commit such atrocities? Are they born from evil, or are they shaped by a series of choices and experiences? These questions resonate with our own understanding of morality, compelling us to examine the factors that contribute to such heinous behavior. After Holmes's execution, the fate of his family remained shrouded in mystery. His wives, particularly his first, Clara, faced the stigma of being associated with one of America's most notorious criminals. Clara reportedly moved away from Chicago, seeking a life of anonymity, while his other relationships fell into obscurity. His children were left with the burden of their father's legacy, their lives forever impacted by the shadows cast by his actions. As for the murder castle, its fate was sealed after Holmes's capture and the subsequent investigations into his horrific deeds. The building, once a monument to his cunning and malevolence, was consumed by fire in 1896, just a few years after his execution. The cause of the blaze remains uncertain, with some speculating it was an act of arson intended to erase the dark past, while others believe it was an accidental fire. Regardless, the destruction of the murder castle marked the end of an era and further solidified Holmes's legacy as a figure of terror in American history. The ashes of the hotel, once filled with secrets and horrors, now serve as a haunting reminder of the depths to which humanity can sink, a final chapter in the story of H. Holmes that lingers in the collective memory of those fascinated by his dark tale. In closing, the narrative of H. Holmes is one that transcends time, a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity. As we recount his story, we delve not only into the darkness that enveloped him but also into the recesses of our own minds. The legacy of the Devil of 63rd Street serves as a stark reminder that true horror can often be found in the most unexpected places, lurking behind the facade of normalcy, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. This has been the Phantom Files, and until next time, be sure to stay curious, stay vigilant, and always question what is lurking in the shadows.